The Glock Model 21 Gen 5. Let's check it out. In 1982, Glock introduced its first pistol, and it was the Model 17 in 9mm. In 1990, they introduced the Model 21, which was in 45 ACP. This is considered the big boy. I mean, it's a big firearm. It's the largest in the Glock line. Has 13+1 for 45 and 15+1 for 10mm. And so it requires a fairly thicker grip. With the Gen 3 and the Gen 4, it had the finger grooves. Now they've gone to the Gen 5. Guys, I've been waiting on this pistol for a while. Ever since Gen 5 was introduced, I was really excited about the Model 21 and the Model 20. Now, if you have really large hands, you're gonna like that big full-size grip of the 21, Gen 3, Gen 4. With the Gen 5, with the removal of the finger grooves, with the flared mag well, this makes it a much more ergonomic pistol for those guys with average, or actually a little larger than average hands. It's a big gun. But another big change with the Gen 5 series and the 21 and 20 is that it's MOS compatible. And this gives you the ability to put a red dot on your Model 21 or your Model 20 right out of the box. Guys, a lot of people talk about how Glock has not innovated since 1982, but there have been a number of changes. And from Gen 4 to Gen 5, there were over 20 different design changes with these pistols, just to make it better. And guys, just to be honest, I like Glock. I want it to stay a Glock. And guys, we want to give a big thank you to Glock for providing the Model 21 Gen 5 for this review. This is going to be a keeper. Well, the Glock Model 21 Gen 5, and this is MOS version, 45 ACP, 13+1. The 10mm version, it looks exactly like it. It just is in 10mm, and it holds 15+1. And right here we have a Gen 3, and this is the Model 21. There are a number of differences between this and the Gen 4, and there are 20 additional differences between the Gen 5 and the Gen 4. And so a lot of people feel like that this silhouette just hasn't changed. And really, it hasn't that much. But the big difference is in the internals. One of the things about a Model 21 or a 20 is there are some things you need to consider before you purchase something like this. A lot of people buy these guns and they just feel like they're really big. And the grip is big. Compared to the Glock 17 or 19. This is the largest frame that Glock makes, and it's thicker. And I think really Glock has addressed some of that with this shorter frame. I mean, let's face it, guys, it is what it is. If you want 13+1 in 45 or 15+1 in 10mm, you're gonna have to have a little bit of a larger frame. Now let's go ahead and make sure the gun is unloaded. We're gonna drop our magazine, check the chamber, and it's empty. The magazines have been changed with the Gen 5 series with the orange follower, a little bit larger base plate, has an angle here at the front to make this easier to pull out, and it has the ambidextrous mag release features. Also, we have a flared mag well. It just gives you a little bit more ease in inserting those magazines. You can see the lip right here. It's not obtrusive, it's not large, but man, you know, in your hand, it gives you just a little more, especially with larger hands. It gives you just a little more gripping surface, kind of nestles it into your hand. The texturing has been changed a little bit over the Gen 4, but pretty much the same style design. Big thing is the finger grooves. The removal of the finger grooves to me really makes a huge difference with this pistol because the grip is already large and that just makes it larger. And so with the removal of the finger grooves, that is a huge plus. And guys, honestly, that is one of the biggest things I was excited about them coming out with the Gen 5 pistol. Of course, you have your front slide serrations, which are new from Glock. It has the marksman barrel, which has a little more aggressive rifling. It's still the polygonal lands and grooves like it's been in the past. And then it has a small little crown here at the end to protect your muzzle, which should give you just better accuracy. The mag release is the same as the Gen 4. It's a little bit enlarged and you can reverse it to the other side. You'll see that it does have a slide stop on the right side, so it does have ambidextrous slide stops. That's another plus for the Gen 5. Sights, still Glock sights, plastic, and of course there's a bazillion upgrades. You can order these with night sights installed. But one big plus here is it's an MOS version, and that's one thing that the Gen 4 and 3 did not have, was a Model 21 or 20 with the optics cuts. It does come with all the adapter plates, so you don't have to special order them, which seems to be a trend here lately with companies, where you order the plate. With this, you get it all together. If you want to change them out, you can do it. And so, to me, that's a great plus. Now, here we have the Gen 3, and this is in the Model 21. There are some vast differences between these two. And, of course, obviously, the finger grooves. Here we have the finger grooves. Now, one thing I do want to mention, I'm going to be bringing a number of guns in here, and all of them have been safety checked. This also has your standard 13-round magazine. It has the original black follower and just the standard floor plate. And it has some reinforcement here, which all of Glock magazines have steel reinforced bodies inside. One thing that Glock started doing with the Gen 4 is including an additional magazine to the extra mag. So now with each pistol you get 3 magazines, and I really like that because additional magazine's great, but obviously 3 is better. And the Glock magazines are fairly reasonable, around the $30 and less range. But one of the reasons why the grips on the Glock tend to be a little bit larger is they're using polymer magazines with a steel insert. And this polymer is fairly thick compared to a standard steel magazine. And this is just a SIG Macro X magazine, just for demonstration. But you can get a lot more rounds in a metal mag because you can make them so much thinner. And with the Glock mags, they're just a little bit thicker, and then you have that steel insert. And so it just adds a little bit of width and length to the grip. Now for comparison, I have one of the Model 45s, which is in 9mm. It is a Gen 5 as well. And I want to give you an idea of 9mm versus 45 or 10. One of the big things is the grip distance here. This is a lot thinner. You have a lot thicker body on the Model 21 or the Model 20. The slide is a lot thicker. In fact, considerably thicker. You can see it right here. And so it's going to give it a little bit more mass when shooting. With the recoil coming back, it just has more slide mass. With the 45, it's definitely a more narrow frame. Obviously, this is more the Glock 19 size as far as length, so it's actually going to be a shorter length on the slide. And this particular one is not an MOS, which I do have some MOS version Glocks in the Gen 5. To me, with red dots the way they're going, it really is the best option. And if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. It does have a polymer cover over the slide cuts, but both have front and rear cocking serrations. This one does have night sights installed. One thing too is the difference between this area, and this is the biggest that really, especially for shooters, with the web of your hand to the tip of your finger. And so it's a lot shorter on the Model 45. And guys, to be honest, if you think that your Glock 9mm is kind of blocky, pick up a Model 21 or a 20 and you'll feel like that this is really thin. I mean, it really kind of brings it down. But you've got the power of 45 and 10mm, and so, there's going to be some sacrifices, but, that's where this 21 really shines, is in the caliber. They've improved the trigger and some of the functioning of the trigger bar, some of those things internal again. Here we have probably a tenifer. Now, Glock typically made their tenifer slides. It was a finish that impregnated the metal. It was extremely hard. With the new Gen 5, this is an NDLC coating, which is like a diamond-like, nitride diamond-like coating. And it impregnates the metal. It gives it really hard surface, and it's very corrosion resistant. And so that's one of the things that Glock has done over the years, is had a really good finish on their slides. But also on all the major metal parts. They are also NDLC coated. Here with the original Gen 3, no slide cuts, or the Gen 4. They've retained pretty much the same one-slot Picatinny rail and, squared off trigger guard. I mean, guys, they're very similar in a lot of ways, but it's the small differences that really count. Now here with the Glock Model 21 Gen 4 and the Gen 3, it's a 3-pin design. So you have 2 pins here, one that actually holds in your locking block and your trigger, and then you have a rear pin back here that holds in your ejector housing. With the Gen 5, we just have 1 pin, and it actually fits all the parts together, your trigger, your locking block, and everything. And then we have the pin at the back. And that's a new design with the Gen 5. Now here on the Gen 5, you'll notice that we have these bevels and these cuts. And this just gives it better ease for inserting into holsters, and it just kind of cuts that corner. Here on the Gen 4 and the Gen 3, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty blocky on the front with a slight bevel. But guys, whether you have the Gen 3, Gen 4, or Gen 5, they all fit into the same holsters, and that's one big plus. And there are parts compatibility between all of these, and there are proprietary parts between all of these. But one great thing about the Glock, and I mentioned earlier, is if something were to go wrong, I can fix it. Even the barrel. I mean, they have all the parts. It's very simple to break these down, replace parts, or for that matter, to add upgrades. And that's one of the big reasons why the Glocks have been so popular, because a lot of people take them from the standard design and they completely change them. But because of the way they're designed, it's easy to do that. And guys, there are still tons of Gen 3 Glocks out there that people are still carrying. I have a number of Gen 3 Glocks. There's nothing wrong with them. They're great guns. These are just improvements over the original design of Gen 1, Gen 2, obviously Gen 3. And so the Gen 5 is just the culmination of a lot of different internal and a few external improvements, again, that just make this a better pistol. There are guys out there that love the finger grooves, and they're continuing to make the Gen 4. I believe the Gen 3 has now been discontinued. So if you really love the finger grooves, the Gen 4 is going to make an excellent handgun. You're just not going to be able to get it in the MOS versions. If you're going to a red dot sight, the new Gen 5s are going to be the way to go. Unless you want to go and have custom slide cuts put into your pistol, which, obviously there's a lot of companies that do that. Now, being an MOS, you have 4 additional adapter plates to fit any optic that you can come up with. One of the things that we try to do is go ahead and shoot it as you get it out of the box. I do add red dots to my pistols a lot of times, even when I'm doing a review, but we just decided to wait because, you're getting it this way. There's a lot of advantages to this, not just the MOS. And so this does give you those plates directly, so you can change them right out. It does come with the screws as well, and an Allen wrench or Torx wrench to be able to tighten that down. It also includes 2 of your MBS or modular back straps, and both have the extended beaver tail. And you can see it definitely gives you a little more added surface that kind of comes up and gives you like more, again, of like the 1911 has the beaver tail and a lot of different guns. Now the companion to the Model 21 is the Model 30, and this is the compact 45 ACP. It holds 10+1. And I like to have an extension right here because honestly, this is a very short grip on it. It's not quite as small as your standard like Model 19, and that's really where this falls, in between the 19 and the 26 as far as size comparison. But it's definitely a lot thicker, and really looking forward to when they come out with the Gen 5. They've only released the Model 21 and Model 20 right now. Now on the Gen 5, it does have a firing pin and trigger spring enhancements just to make it more reliable. And again, that's something that you're not going to see. Also, the chamber of the barrel, the marksman barrel, has been tightened some just to give it, again, better accuracy. And the barrel is 4.61 inches in overall length. Glock is known for having a little bit of a mushy trigger. And we have the trigger shoe right here of the blade, and this is your safety. You can see it in the back kind of popping up. And if I hit it in any other direction, it's just going to rest on the back of the frame. So you have to have a full pad on the trigger, and as we pull it, we have take up right to about here. A little bit of resistance, and then your brake. It's not all that great, it's not very crisp, but it's much better than the earlier gen models. And then here we have reset right here. So an improved trigger, but it's still a Glock trigger. And now that they have their enhanced triggers, you know, that may be something that you want to go for because it's a different configuration. We'll check trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 5 pounds, 3.4 ounces. It's wanting to slide on that trigger. 5 pounds, 3.1 ounces. Weight on the Model 21 Gen 5. 1 pound, 11.4 ounces. I want to give a big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring our ammo, all made in the USA. #1 supplier of ammunition in the country. Also, we love our Lula loaders, our mag Lulas. These fit the 9mm, they fit 45, they fit any of your double stack magazines. So they're very versatile. It's not just for one type magazine, and they load them fast. Man, I've been waiting on the Gen 5 for a while in the Model 21 and 20. Of course, with the optics ready, we just went ahead and chose to shoot it as is. But 13+1 in 45, 15+1 in 10mm. But what I love is this reduction of the grip. The finger grooves are gone. This was a really large grip, and I've got the other Gen 3 and Gen 4. And they're just big guns. Now, if you are a big guy and you have big hands, a lot of people love them. But to me, the average person, this is a little bit large. With the Gen 5, they've really trimmed it down. And that's the one thing I've been waiting on. The front cocking serrations are great. Again, the optics ready. A lot of the internal improvements, including the marksman barrel, have been good. But, man, there's something about 45 that's just sweet. And having it in a Glock, I mean, it's a big gun, and it's coming out pretty fast. The 45 ACP is just a large bullet. So it does have some recoil. But once you get used to it and you get in the groove, this thing shoots really well. This is a man's gun, if you got the moxie. In 10mm, this is sweet. All right, for disassembly, drop our magazine, make sure the gun is unloaded. First thing you want to do is pull the trigger. That deactivates the striker. Pull back about 1/8 of an inch on your slide. Pull down on these 2 takedown tabs on either side. And the barrel comes, or slide comes right off. We have our recoil spring system, which is dual, it's captive, and it is metal. And that's a big plus for the Gen 5. With the Gen 3, it is a polymer guide rod with a single spring, and so this is actually going to aid in recoil control. Your Gen 4s also had a double recoil spring, a little bit different, but this is going to give you more improvement on recoil. Now we're going to remove our barrel. Again, this is the marksman barrel, improved, rifling more aggressive, slight little target crown. Chamber has been tightened just a little bit, just to give you better accuracy. Of course, the bottom, it's pretty much your standard Glock, and of course here with the ambidextrous features here, it just kind of changed things from the Gen 4 and Gen 3. In fact, we did an extensive video on comparing the Gen 3, Gen 4, and Gen 5. I'll have it annotated right here, but it really goes through a lot of the things they changed. The locking block setup is one thing. The way that your little bar, that actually your locking bar that holds the slide right here with your takedown tabs, ambidextrous slide stops, A lot of different things have been changed. The trigger bar has a different configuration. I mean, there are a lot of differences between the Gen series. And so, you know, it's not just a few cosmetics outside. And guys, it's simple, easy to do. That's all you need to do to field strip. So we're going to drop our barrel back in, put in our recoil spring and guide rod. And we're going to put it right back over the slide. And it's that simple, it's done. And also I have a video on how to lubricate by the Glock official instructions and what you need to do to maintain your Glock. And I'll have that video annotated above as well. All right, the manufacturer suggested retail is $675. Of course, market price, you'll be able to get it less. This is a fairly new gun, so typically after it kind of gets in the market, the prices start to come down a little bit. And that'll be whether it's the Model 21 or the Model 20. As far as pros and cons, first off, it's 13+1 of 45 ACP or 15+1 of 10 millimeter. Improved grip, big time. And I really like that they've removed the finger grooves and the mag well and the front cocking serrations. Definitely the MOS is a big plus. Improved marksman barrel, improved trigger, improved internals. A number of different things have been changed to make this actually even more safe. The NDLC coating is really nice, very well done. Honestly, it's more reminiscent to me of the older design Glocks with the Tennifer finish. But it should be very corrosion resistant and wear resistant. The marksman barrel is going to give you just more performance, a little bit of a crown on the barrel. And of course you get 3 magazines with the Gen 5s, which is nice. And of course you have your back strap. So it has a lot of pluses. Negatives, it still has a fairly thick grip, and that's just what it is. It is what it is. I mean, this is going to handle all your different magazines. Gen 3, Gen 4, and obviously Gen 5s are improved, but you know, it's going to be very compatible. And it is a full large gun, but it's definitely reliable, and it has that Glock tradition behind it. It's very simple. And so really, a couple of cons, but honestly, it's trade-offs, and that's just the way it is with anything in life. I mean, you know, you have trade-offs in life, and because this is a larger caliber, it's just going to be a larger gun. So this pistol is so established, there's not really any cons that aren't just kind of out there of you just grabbing the pistol and saying, that's a large pistol, you know, I'll go for something else. Honestly, this is one of the best 45 or 10 millimeter guns out on the market with that kind of capacity and just the reliability. So while they look very similar, and a Glock is a Glock, it's a Glock, and that's what makes it so cool, because it's going to be so reliable. Guys, I've always been a big fan of the Model 21 and the Model 20, both in Gen 3 and Gen 4. But, you know, the grip was always big. You knew when you grabbed it, it was large. And, you know, guys with big hands love it. Most of us with average or even above average hands have found that this is a really thick grip. And it's really great to see Glock removing those finger grooves, flaring that magazine well, and making this a much more shootable option. Plus, being MOS, you have that red dot ready, you've got the adapter plates, it's ready to go. And so it's really exciting to see Glock bringing out the Gen 5 plus all the Gen 5 upgrades. And again, a big thank you to Glock for sending the Model 21 MOS Gen 5 for this review. And guys, if you're looking at a 45 or even a 10 millimeter, this is a great gun to check out. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic. This 45 It's going to be sweet in this. Yeah. But it's just a little more aggressive, is it? Now, right now, these will be fairly difficult to get. I don't know that. I don't have any idea about that. And so for the past 30 years, the years,